Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into what's basically the ultimate pre-flight briefing on FAA medical regulations. If you're a student pilot, or maybe you're working on your private pilot certificate right now, this is absolutely foundational knowledge. We're going to look way beyond just getting your medical certificate and focus on what it actually means to be medically ready to fly under Part 61.
Right off the bat, we're tackling this huge paradox in aviation. Honestly, it's a trap so many of us fall into. Having the legal paperwork tucked away in your flight bag, well, that doesn't automatically mean you're actually physiologically ready for the cockpit today. The FAA hands you a certificate, sure, but it is 100% up to you to determine your true fitness for every single flight.
To kind of demystify all these regulations and make them really practical for you, we're breaking medical fitness down into a super clear 3-layer system. It starts with your basic pilot certificate, establishing your privileges, moves up to your medical qualification pathway, so whether that's an FAA medical or BasicMed, and then caps off with the ultimate check, the self-grounding rules. This framework is going to guide our whole conversation today.
So here's our flight plan for this workshop. 1. Medical certificates. 2. BasicMed rules. 3. Operating limits. 4. Self-grounding. And 5. Paper versus condition. Let's get right into it. Starting off with Section 1, Layer 1, Medical Certificates. This is the traditional baseline of FAA medical qualifications. The FAA breaks things down into 3 classes of medical certificates, and each one is tied to different flying privileges. First class is for your airline transport pilots. Second class usually covers commercial ops. But for most of you watching this, student, recreational, and private pilots, that third class medical is totally your bread and butter. It's the most common one issued by an aviation medical examiner, or AME, and it's exactly what you need to exercise those private pilot privileges. So, how long does that piece of paper actually last? Well, the FAA bases this on your age when you take the exam. The validity clock starts ticking from that exact month. If you're under 40, you get a really solid 60 calendar months of duration. But notice how that duration drops pretty sharply to just 24 calendar months once you hit 40 or older? Yeah, it turns out hitting the big 40 comes with a few extra check-ins with your AME. Before we get into the exact timeline, you absolutely have to grasp this concept called the step-down rule. Basically, a higher class medical certificate doesn't just vanish into thin air when its highest privilege period ends. Instead, it continues to authorize lower class privileges for the rest of the applicable time period. Think of it like a cascading system. Say you get a first class medical and you're under 40. It acts as a first class medical for 12 months, but then it just steps down, seamlessly covering your private pilot operations as a third class medical all the way out to month 60. You don't need to rush right back to the doctor. It's a pretty brilliant way to handle privileges. Moving right along to Section 2, Layer 2, BasicMed rules. Now, BasicMed is an incredibly popular alternative pathway, but it definitely has some strict gatekeeping. First, you've got to hold a valid U.S. driver's license. Simple enough. But the real kicker? You must have held at least one FAA medical certificate issued after July 14th, 2006. Oh, and crucially, that certificate couldn't have been revoked, suspended, or denied. If you meet those prerequisites, the BasicMed door is wide open to you. Once you're actually in the BasicMed system, keeping it active is surprisingly straightforward. It really just boils down to 2 recurring tasks. Every 48 months, you take an FAA checklist to literally any state-licensed physician. It doesn't even have to be an AME for a physical exam. Then every 24 calendar months, you just knock out a free FAA-approved online medical education course. Keep those completion records securely filed away, and boom, your medical qualification is set. Okay, Section 3, BasicMed operating limits. Because BasicMed is this separate, alternative privilege, it doesn't just give you the keys to the entire kingdom. It comes with a set of very, very strict boundaries, and you absolutely must memorize these operating limitations if you plan to act as pilot in command under it. This isn't a suggestion, guys. It's the law. If your flight falls outside these parameters, your BasicMed is completely invalid for that operation. So here are your hard limits. Under BasicMed, you can carry a maximum of 6 passengers, and the aircraft itself can't be authorized for more than 7 occupants. Your aircraft cannot exceed a max certificated takeoff weight of 12,500 pounds. You've got to stay at or below 18,000 feet MSL and keep your speed strictly to 250 knots indicated or less. Plus, you are restricted to flying only within the United States. Exceed literally any of these, like say you want to take a 7th passenger or fly faster than 250 knots, and you instantly need to go back to Layer 1 and get a traditional medical certificate. Which brings us to Section 4, Layer 3, self-grounding. This is honestly the most critical part of our workshop today. Here is where we see a massive shift from systemic paperwork to absolute personal responsibility. We're talking about FAR 61.53. This is the ultimate safety net, and honestly, it's the rule that catches pilots off guard the most. Why? Because 61.53 explicitly dictates that your medical certificate or your basic med course only proved you were healthy on the exact day you completed them. They absolutely do not guarantee you are fit to fly today. Think about it as a personal decision matrix. Whether your operation requires a medical certificate or not, the FAA puts the burden entirely on your shoulders. Before every single flight, you have to ask yourself, do I know or have reason to know of a condition or treatment that makes me unable to operate safely? If the answer is yes, you are legally required to ground yourself. No exceptions. And hey, this isn't just about major medical events like heart attacks. We're talking about everyday ailments, a common sinus infection that could cause excruciating, super distracting ear pain on descent, a sudden bout of vertigo, or, get this, even an over-the-counter allergy pill that makes you just a tiny bit drowsy. Those are all highly practical, legal reasons you must temporarily ground yourself. It's all about protecting yourself and your passengers the moment your performance is even slightly compromised.
Let's bring it all home. Section 5, Paper versus Present Condition.
Let's wrap this up by pulling these three distinct layers together. Whether you maintain a traditional medical through an AME or you go the basic med route, the structure is identical. That self-grounding rule, FAR 61.53, sits squarely at the very top of the pyramid. It overrides all other paperwork. You literally could have walked out of the AME's office yesterday with a pristine first-class medical, but if you wake up today with a terrible flu, that piece of paper means absolutely nothing. You are grounded. This right here needs to be your defining mantra for aviation medical readiness. The certificate on paper matters, but your condition today matters more. Every single time you do a pre-flight check on your aircraft, you need to do a pre-flight check on yourself. The certificate in your wallet keeps you legal on paper, sure, but your actual physical and mental condition today, that's what keeps you alive. I really want you to consider that reality check carefully and let it guide every decision you make out there. Because the safest pilots are always the ones who know exactly when to leave the airplane in the hangar. So ask yourself, the next time you're holding that medical certificate in your hand, right before a flight, will you have the courage to ground yourself anyway if you need to? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and fly safe.